welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Miller. I'm a stroke survivor and grateful recovering alcoholic. Today's topic is easy does it. And easy does it is a very popular phrase in the sobriety program. So I wanted to start out by talking about a little bit about some of my quirks. So as I drank more and more, I had more and more excuses for why I drank. And when I got into the program, I thought, well, I'm going to tell these people why I drank. I drank because I was unhappy in my marriage. I drank because my job was stressful. I drank because I didn't have enough money. I could think of all the excuses in the world for why I was drinking. But I drank because I'm an alcoholic. And, blaming these other people, places, and things, blaming my depression, my anxiety, none of that was why I drank. I didn't drink because I had anxiety, meaning my mental health isn't why I drank. I drank because I'm an alcoholic, because I have a disease. And although on the surface, what I saw during that time was that I had anxiety, I had depression, I had a stressful job, I had a relationship that I wasn't happy in. So that's why I drink. That's what I thought back then. So today, today is no less stressful than it was back then when I was drinking. Life still goes swirling around in my head. I don't know if any of you have that, but some days can be so stressed out and so wrapped around the axle about whatever's going on in my life or all the 20,000 things that are going on that I can sit in a room in silence and my brain is like, it's so loud inside my head because I just can almost hear the chaos of all the emotions and the stress about what I have to do. And I don't know. It's just so loud. That's the best way that I can describe it. It's so loud in my head. And today I still have just as many stresses in my life. They're just packaged very differently today. Today I don't have coworkers that are telling me this or that. I don't have deadlines for work. Today though, I have an illness that I'm trying to manage. I have insurance paperwork that I'm trying to manage. There is a deadline with that. I have doctors, lots of different doctors that I'm trying to communicate with, and some are responsive, some are not responsive. I've got, my son is turning 26, and that's the magic age where all the insurance and everything drops off at 26. And so life is still happening to me, even though everything has changed in my life in the past 4 months. My entire life has just completely changed. But yet, it's interesting how we can sit in a totally different world and still feel just as many stressors in our lives. And And we can sit in, you know, ask me, a year ago, if imagine, Rachel, that you were going to be not working, dealing with your head symptoms, talking to insurance companies and doctors. I don't know. I would have said I'd rather keep working. I know that I would have, but there are some people that are probably like, oh, give it up, Rachel. I'd rather not work and have to just talk to insurance companies and doctors. Like, it's all perspective. But it's you almost can't compare. And just yesterday, I was talking to my boyfriend, and I was explaining to him, how I've been reaching out to everybody I need to regarding all the paperwork that needs to be completed by certain deadlines for my insurance and my doctors and all of that. And he, gently reminded me that this is my job, dealing with the insurance and the doctors and everything. That is my job now, and that is what my primary care physician told me as well. She's like, "This is your job now," and she said that in the beginning because I was feeling like I didn't have a job. Like if I'm on uh, disability, I don't have a job. And she was saying, Bo, but you do have a job. Your job is to take care of yourself. Your job is to recover. Your job is to manage your life the way that it is right now. That's your job. Um, so I wanted to talk about this easy does it thing. Some in my recovery program for sobriety, some people say easy does it, but do it, because easy does it doesn't mean just you don't need to do that. It's just put it off. It doesn't need to be so. It doesn't mean don't do it. It just means don't overwhelm yourself. Like, slow down and remember that I am responsible for getting these things done. And I remember when I was drinking, clearly remember when I was drinking, having these deadlines and things I needed to do just pile up one after the other, to the point where I was just, I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything because I wouldn't, I started procrastinating, and then it just kept piling up. And then eventually I was just overwhelmed, and that is by even paying my bills. I was overwhelmed by bills because I didn't just pick one bill up and pay it. I procrastinated on everything. And so my entire life, that's step one, my entire life was unmanageable. Even the simplest things that a normal human being knows how to do, I just couldn't do it. I can't think of the word that I'm trying to think of, but I was just paralyzed. That's what it is. I was paralyzed with just uh, being overwhelmed, being fearful, all of that stuff. So, in sobriety, what I've learned is to start taking small steps. I talk about it all the time, doing the next right thing. Some people say small changes, call them small changes. There's a book that, if you've read it, called Atomic Habits. All of it is really the same thing. It means to work towards whatever you're trying to do a little bit at a time, basically. And this next right thing concept has really just been pivotal for me, for my life. And so reminding myself that I'm responsible, and I'm responsible for everything. So those are just life things, paying the bills and the stuff I'm dealing with right now. But also, um, I'm responsible for my relationships with bleh, that I have with people also. And um, one of the challenges that I had when I first got sober was being resentful towards people that I had relationships with that I felt weren't putting any effort towards a relationship with me. For example, they don't call me. And I used to be so resentful towards these people that didn't call me. So I went to the therapist and recognized that I absolutely have this separation anxiety. What is it? When people go and I'm afraid they're never going to come back. I'm having a hard time with words today. It happens. Um, but so like when for example, I don't want to go too much down this road, but like my father going, my brother going, my son going, these people, I had so many examples of people leaving my life and never coming back. So that when my son actually went off to college, I'm like, he's leaving, he's never coming back. And, I never picked up the phone and called any of these people that I claimed left my life and never came back. Like my sister graduated, got married, left, and never came back. You know, and you could go all day long about how your world changes as you grow up. But what I was looking at it as a victim. I was looking at it like I was a victim, that everybody was just leaving me behind. And I've talked about it and shed some tears over it in a previous episode about how I always felt like I was standing still while everybody was moving on with their lives. And so, what am I getting at? I'm getting at the fact that I'm responsible for those relationships just as much as responsible for everything else in my life. And I would get to the point where I was so resentful that it was inside me, my relationship with that person was being destroyed. And I was just starting to just be terribly upset about it. Um, and the other person didn't even know about it. And what she reminded me of is that it's my responsibility to pick up the phone just as much as it's the other person's responsibility to pick up the phone. There's two of us in the relationship. So I know that kind of seems a little different than what I'm talking about for Easy Does It, but it's really the concept of just doing the next right thing. There are things that can build up and be overwhelming, and there are things that build up and can cause resentments. And in order to avoid those, it's like just put forth the effort, take an action. But there's no need to get obsessed about it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Who knows what I'm trying to say? Anyway, I was in a meeting this morning and I was thinking about how I was very much just present in the meeting. I was listening to what the topic was. I was listening to other people sharing, and I was not thinking about or obsessing about or getting, feeling anxiety, feeling stress about what needed to be happening later today. And what needed to happen later today is I needed to freaking find a way to get my insurance company to respond to me because I had tried like 6 times. And, but at my 7 a.m. meeting, I was in my 7 a.m. meeting. Mentally, I was present in that 7 a.m. meeting. And I felt really happy about that. I kind of was patting myself on the back a little bit. And I was really, it drove home for me that nothing's going to be resolved if I sit in this sobriety meeting and worry about what I need to do later today. I'm not resolving anything. And actually, what I'm doing is I'm putting myself at risk for being not spiritually fit for the day, because that's why I'm in that 7 a.m. meeting, to be spiritually fit for the day. And I need it. I need to fill my gas tank every day with that 7 a.m. meeting. So I was thinking after the meeting, as I started to tackle what I needed to do for this insurance paperwork and contacting all of these people, I was thinking I need to do one thing at a time and think about the one thing that I'm doing at the time that I'm doing it. Don't think about the other things that I need to do, just the one thing. So somebody said, slow down to speed up is another way of saying it. And so here's the example. So I'm trying to figure this out in real time, live action. How do I slow down? So it's like I have this engine running behind the scenes in my head that's telling me, while I'm doing one thing, it's telling me all the other things that I need to do. So this is what happened this morning. I got off of my sobriety meeting, and I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to tackle this insurance and doctor's paperwork thing. So just to recap, I had been trying to contact my insurance company for 9 days and didn't receive a response. And I had sent 3 emails, 2 portal messages, made 1 phone call, and nothing. I got nothing back. And then so I'm like, okay, let me think of different ways that I can contact them. And so I went on to the website. Now, mind you, my impairment is a neurological vision impairment, which means anything that I do on the computer causes my head to hurt. Now, I'm taking a migraine injection, which makes my head I don't have the sharp pains, and I don't have the, I don't know, like the rubber bands necessarily, unless I really, really push myself. So the symptoms that I have that are left over now that the pain is taken away is that I just plain old can't see. And it's hard to explain. I have this sensation behind my eyes. Like it feels like it's somewhere between my brain and my eyes. There's something happening there. So I'm doing all of this to spite my my impairment. I mean, what else am I supposed to do? Okay, so I go onto the website and I see that there's a chat thing. So I start chatting to talk to somebody and I connect with somebody. I tell them, is there any way for you to figure out what the status of my claim is? Because because nobody's responding to me. So meanwhile, while I'm talking to that lady, I pop over to my email and lo and behold, in my spam folder of my email, I received an email from my claims person, my case manager, the the night before. So last night, and it was in my spam folder. So I finally did get a message back on the ninth day. So, but I didn't tell the person on chat that I was talking to because I wanted to hear what the status was from her perspective. So, so I'm already doing two things at once. I'm trying to talk to the chat person and I'm checking my email to see what the case manager said. And then what I'm also doing is I got the printer out because I filled out all this paperwork that I received in the mail and I was trying to scan it all so that I could send it over to the case manager. So that's three things at once that I'm trying to do. I had already written down my notes for my podcast today that said slow down to speed up, one thing at a time. And I was sitting there actively trying to do three things at once. It's fascinating. I'm actually sitting here shaking my head like I can't even believe it as I'm talking about it because I don't think I realized what I did until right this second, sharing it with you. So I wanted to reply to my case manager via email as soon as possible. I wanted to just get it done. I'm snapping my fingers. And yet I didn't want to let the lady on chat, lady or guy, I don't know, uh, be delayed. I didn't want to not respond to them right away or else they may drop. And yet I knew that I needed to get the paperwork to the case manager. So why email her when I need to actually send the email with the paperwork? So this is just an enlightening story about how chaotic my brain is. That is what's going on. So it also happened. That's the end of that story. So I sent my paperwork in. I found out that they're still working on it. I sent all the paperwork in. I needed to before I sent the email to the insurance case manager, I needed to call two doctors' offices to have them reply to the case uh, manager and all this stuff. So I got it all done, but in my head, it was very chaotic. It wasn't like what I used to do at work was some days I would work like that, where I'm doing 10 things at once and they all get done, but it's not pretty the way that it's done. I don't do it gracefully. And then there's other days that I would have a list of what I needed to do that day, and I would just check them off one at a time, one at a time. And you can tell at work who is working off of a list and who actually has set their goals for the day on what they need to complete, and who is working in a world of chaos inside their brain. You can tell who it is. And the last thing you want to do to somebody who's working in a chaotic mindset is to say, "Hey, hey, 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 easy does it." That would just piss them off. At least it would piss me off. Anyway, I also when I was writing my notes for this podcast, I used this Remarkable tablet. I'm always plugging it, and I am going to contact them. But I was using my Remarkable tablet, and I'm writing my notes. So it's just like paper, and so I'm writing cursive, and I find myself trying to rush because I feel like I'm always working against the clock. I always feel like I'm working against the clock. I'm not even, I don't have a typical work day anymore, but I still feel like I'm looking at the clock and making sure that I can fit in as many things as possible during the day. And so in the evening I try to do my podcasts in the mornings. It just doesn't work for me. So in the evening, I'm polishing up my script for the podcast, and I want to make sure that I have quality information that I'm sharing, and that I'm sharing examples of my experience, strength, and hope. But I also want to make sure that I get it done before my boyfriend goes to bed, or else I'm afraid I'm going to wake him up, which I've had 2 episodes recently where I'm trying to talk quiet, and I don't know if that's annoying or not, but sorry if it is. Anyway, so I can tell in the evenings when I'm like polishing up my script and everything that I'm starting to rush. I'm starting to rush so much that I'm like misspelling things. I can't even write. I get so in a tizzy. Uh, and I also, throughout today, I was thinking about how while I'm going about my day, I'm almost haunted by the things that I have in the works that aren't complete. And it bugs me. And what I need to do is not start new things without finishing something else. But it's just an obsessive mindset, I think. So I have this website, recoverydailypodcast.com, and I've been creating blogs for it, but I haven't done a blog for it, I think in like a month or something like that. I almost kind of forgot that I was doing blogs for like a couple weeks. And then I got all excited about this book that I want to write. So I just completely shifted over to that. And then I had mentioned in one of my episodes about doing a commercial for the podcast, but I started working on that for a couple weeks and then realized with my vision impairment, it's just something I can't do. Um, and so I asked for it for Christmas from my son and his girlfriend. So we'll see. That'll be fun. But I also have my quilt that I'm trying to finish for somebody that I care a lot about. And I have this new yoga habit that I've started, and I'm on day 3. Yay. And I have these cupcakes that I want to make. I'm making some cinnamon apple cupcakes with caramel drizzle on top. And so all of these things are like going around in my head like all day. So while I work on one thing, like my quilt, I'm thinking, oh, I got to fit yoga in somewhere. I've got to finish that blog. And it's like I have a compulsion to not only want to finish everything, but it's like I can't just focus on one thing. And in a lot of ways, this is a great quality to have. And it does make sense that I always have to obsess about something. I mean, alcoholics are known for this. There's a lot of literature about it. Um, but what I want to do is think about how many times throughout the day I could have slowed down today. Just today. Um, I'm reaching the end of my quilt. I'm just working on the binding. That's the part that goes around the edge for those of you non-sewers. So while I'm sewing, I found myself today trying to hurry. So I have I've been approved. Well, I'm going to be interviewed for another gentleman's podcast that is about stroke recovery. And so the interview is on Friday, and I'm really excited about it. And I will tell you more information about it soon. But my friend offered to come over and take a picture of me because I don't really have any pictures of myself. I have my picture from my last job, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. I feel like I need a new picture. So she was coming over to take a picture, and I was working on my quilt, and I thought, I'll finish this. I'll just finish this, and I'll still have time to get all duded up for my picture. And like, I keep looking at the clock and looking at the clock, and I'm like, oh, it's 3:30. I don't think that I can. And I had to stop myself and be like, Rachel, you know, why are you trying to rush this? Like, why are you trying to finish this up when I'm at the very end where I'm really polishing the edges and I need to pay attention to the detail? And I've put a lot of time and effort into it. Why on earth am I rushing it? Because I just wanted to finish it. It's like I wanted to check it off and then do the next thing. Um, and I can feel, like while I was doing it, I could feel like a tremble even that was starting. I could start feeling this tremble underneath, I guess underneath my skin. I don't know. In my nerves, I could feel because I was getting so impatient. Um, and when I get like that, I start getting hot, like a hot flash and everything. So I just stopped. At one point I was just like, just stop. So this is normal too. This is normal for me. I would love to hear if any of you have this same craziness that happens. But I talked yesterday about our tendency these days to want immediate gratification. And I think what I'm feeling is similar to that. It makes it hard for me to remember to enjoy the journey just as much as the destination. The joy of making this quilt is not just the finished product. You know, the reason why I'm making the quilt is because it's for somebody I care about who's very sick. And that is that's my goal. That's the objective. And I want to get to the end as soon as possible so that I can send it to the person. But there's also a lot of joy in taking the time to work on this for somebody that I care about. All the time that I'm sitting and sewing, and I feel like I'm getting a lump in my throat. the time that I'm sitting and sewing this quilt is time that I get to think about this person. And I want to remember that tomorrow as I'm working on it, is that it's not the finished quilt. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, but it's also that I'm putting a lot of love and recovery and frustration and sadness and joy. And there's so many feelings that are being stitched into this quilt. And I need to remember that as I finish it up tomorrow, that it is the perfect time for me to relax and try to let go of some of that tension. It's not just physical tension, it's mental tension. So some other things that that I need to do is remind myself to take it easy when I'm trying to put together a daily schedule and my goals for the day. My boyfriend had told me at the beginning of my disability period he recommended that I focus on accomplishing one big thing per day. Big thing, big, whatever I consider big. One thing, maybe I shouldn't even say big, that I complete one thing per day. And I loved that idea because otherwise I'm trying to do that thing where I'm trying to beat the clock and I'm trying all day to complete as many things as possible, you know? Um, there are days that I'm downstairs, I'm like, okay, I'm going to bake this bread. I'm going to take my dog for a long walk. I'm going to sew the quilt. I need to fit in a nap. I need to make sure that I do yoga. I mean, it's not reasonable. And it's certainly not endorsing my recovery for myself. So I intentionally start my day with my sobriety meeting at 7 a.m. And that allows me to reflect and relax and just listen and feel, It's one of the most important times in my day because it gets me on the right track. It kind of just puts me right on my beam for the day. And it's so important to me that after I feed my dogs and I let them out, they know that from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., it's cuddle time. And that means that they are allowed to get in my bed with me because they usually they do sleep in their crates. So during my sobriety meeting, they get to get up on the bed with me and it's cuddle time. No puppies are allowed to have toys during that time. Everybody just goes back to sleep. And it's just a time that I treasure. And another thing that I do to promote relaxation is at midday, I take each of the dogs for a walk around the block. And lately it's been really, really nice outside. And we don't take a fast walk. What I determined is with my vision impairment, it's a lot easier for me to walk really slow. And I thought, when I walk the bulldog, Boris, when I walk him, most of the time he's standing still. He's sniffing things, so we'll walk like a couple steps and then he'll sniff a pole. And then we'll walk a couple steps and he'll sniff a bush or something like that. So we're not really walking. We don't go very far. Um, but I thought, why aren't I doing this with my Weimaraner? She's just high energy. She's high energy like me. And there's no reason why I can't walk slow with her. And it'd probably be a good training opportunity. So we spend just as much time outside, but we walk really slowly. And you can tell that she's just itching, itching to just go running. But it's good for her. It's good training, and I think it's mental exercise for her more than physical exercise. So that's another thing that I do midday. My yoga has been panning out to be at 4 p.m. As much as I wanted it to be at 11 a.m., that's not working for me. And and I was also talking to my boyfriend about expanding my baking to cooking. And I told him the reason why baking has been working for me is because it's a very slow paced type kitchen activity. And it's not like, I've got one thing on the burner and one thing in the oven or anything like that. So I get to take my time, because when I hurry, and I've got to do a lot of different things at once, I get mixed up, first of all. I also have a hard time reading instructions and following them, so I need to do one thing at a time. And I can only read the instructions a little bit at a time. I can't just read gigantic paragraphs of instructions because it all hurts my head. So, but I'm going to start branching out and see if I may be able to find some recipes that are cooking, but they don't require a lot of fast paced, multi burner type meals. So, these are some of the things that I'm doing for myself. And I think the best thing I can do is to make sure that I pause when I can remember during the day and use it as a checkpoint and ask myself, am I doing something that I can slow down with? You know, am I working on my quilt and I'm thinking about something else? And that's more about mindfulness. So I'm going to try tomorrow to start slowing down a little bit. I thought about it today, but I certainly did not slow down. But I'll keep trying, because everything that we talk about here on the Recovery Daily podcast takes practice. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.